Hello, my name is Ron Cook, and today we will have a brief discussion of the Quaker executions of 17th century colonial America. We will cover the known facts, the revisions, and contemporary interpretations of the Quaker executions. So we had four Quakers who were sentenced to death between 1659 and 1661. All four are here on screen. Of those four, we had Marmaduke, Stevenson, William Robinson, both executed at the same time in 1659, and Mary Dyer from Rhode Island, who was actually let go and was there to be executed with Robinson and Stevenson, returned, attempting to win some more converts, and was hung in 1660 by the Puritans of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. She was also a staunch supporter of Anne Hutchinson, which didn't win her any brownie points with the Puritans of the era. And then the final Quaker that was sentenced to death was William Ledra of Barbados, and that was in 1661. All four had been whipped or incarcerated, or both, and were all banished and inevitably returned to try to preach the Quaker message, and were convicted for heresy and attempting to infiltrate the colony. On the right, we have a statue of Mary Dyer in Boston, which is in front of the Massachusetts State House. And all of this was noted in the article by Carla Pezzana, The Quaker Executions as Myth and History. Pezzana argues that the writings of the account from both the Quakers and the Puritans over time changed tone, but each continued to blame the opposing camp. The revisions, states Pezzana, eventually morphed into mythological expositions that, on the one hand, made the Quakers appear the innocent martyrs for their faith, while on the other hand, made the Puritans appear to be only carrying out justice. In the end, according to Pestana, the revisions that eventually won the day were those of the Quakers, which had continued to leave a stigma upon the Puritans of Massachusetts Bay Colony. The premise of the lasting narrative is that the Puritans were hypocritical for claiming to have escaped England to America for religious freedom, yet did not bestow that religious freedom to others once established in the New World. Now, basically, we're going to go with three different interpretations, three different articles by three different academics. The three views that you have on screen now show that this argument seems to remain unsettled and somewhat contentious even 300 years later. As we discussed, Pestana tends to see the historical account of the executions from the Society of Friends, which was another name for the Quakers, as one of intentional martyrdom utilized to cast blame and doubt on the Puritans. While another academic, Madeline Ward, views the Quaker writings as being revised as an effort to create a redemptive message for future Quakers towards an individual's spiritual transformation. In other words, the Quakers were simply revising the history over time, not as condemnation nor self-aggrandizement, but as a tool of solidifying their faith and the faith of those in the future. The final interpretation for our discussion is that of Johann Windsor, who is completely at the other end of the spectrum. Windsor comes to the aid of the Puritans and argues that Mary Dyer, the ringleader by his account, was much more divisive than the Quakers have stated. In his view, when taken in context with the era, Dyer and the early Quakers were a true threat in the minds of the Puritans. In fact, Windsor goes on to say in his article that the Quakers later would try to cover up their early dealings with the Puritans by what they called quieting the story and hiding their unlawful and dangerous behavior. Each of the authors speak to the apocalyptic beliefs of the Quakers and their tendency to curse their adversaries with the wrath of God. In fact, they almost believed much like they were prophets of the Old Testament and could send down curses and wrath upon those that wronged the Society of Friends. All right, where are we at here? It's apparent that this discussion marches forward unresolved among academics. Yet, one has to agree with Pestana that the lasting imagery of the Puritans is domineering, autocratic, and somewhat hypocritical, mostly laid out by Quaker historians, has become the entrenched narrative. And here we have the works that I pulled from for this presentation. And a quick note back here when we're talking about interpretations, we have a picture of a rendition of Mary Dyer being hanged for her infiltration or heresy by the Puritans at the Massachusetts Bay Colony. That wraps up our discussion today concerning the Quaker executions. I hope you found this informative and useful, and thank you for watching.